Hi everyone, and welcome to our latest panel as we celebrate St Andrew's Day with Scots across the world. On this panel, what we're going to talk about is the innovation, inclusivity and sustainability of Scotland today. We're all familiar with the castles and the mist and the haggis and all these traditional images of Scotland. But Scotland's also a very current country, a very current nation, where we think we're leading the world in some of the ways we're thinking and developing our country. And we're going to try and get some of the images of that over to you today by meeting with four different, very different leaders from businesses and organisations in Scotland today to get their interpretation of this modern, innovative Scotland. So today we've got Joy and Poonam and Jamie and Isabella, and I'm going to go around in that order to introduce everyone. So I should introduce myself, of course. So I'm Russell Dalgleish, I'm Chairman of Scottish Business Network, and I'm here today on St Andrew's Day in Linlithgow, just outside Edinburgh. So the birthplace of Mary, Queen of Scots, for any history fans out there. So first of all, I'll turn to Joy. And Joy, could you introduce yourself and tell us where you are?
Of course, thank you for having me. So I'm Joy Lewis. I'm CEO and founder of a 10-year-old social enterprise called AAI Employability. And we're also known as Adopt an Intern. I'm based in Edinburgh and I have a team who's spread over the central belt, including Glasgow. I am English, actually, but I've lived here for over 20 years now with my very Scottish partner. So I'm Scott. And but I was also here in my teens. I lived here in the north of Scotland for 5 years, so I have some very memorable and important ties here. And at AAI, we are an inclusive employment specialist, and we have 3 different services. We do inclusive recruitment services, and as a social enterprise, you can imagine that we offer a different and more affordable way to add talent and diversity to a workforce. And we also offer diversity and inclusion awareness workshops, where we include marginalised groups with a lived experience in the conversations. And finally, we help businesses with corporate social responsibility, designing social impact projects for businesses. That's me.
Well, that's right across the gamut of support employers, perhaps employers coming to Scotland would look to get. But you've also got access to some of the most amazing talent in Scotland that may not be so readily obvious through more established recruitment channels.
Yes, indeed. We try actually to avoid using too many obvious ways of recruiting, because we do believe that if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll get what you always got. And we are trying to encourage the accessing diversity through different means of recruiting. And we've been doing that for 10 years, so it's there on a plate. But we also advise employers how to do it. And yes, we're getting some great results.
And you're, just to finish that, you're one of the groups representing people on the Kickstart scheme within the UK. Could you say a little bit about that for people who are not familiar with it?
Sure. So the Kickstart programme is a UK government scheme which is enabling businesses of all sizes to access young people between the ages of 16 and 24 who are on universal credit and struggling to get into work. It's a free service, and as a gateway, we are supporting some of the smaller organisations who want less than 30. So if you want more than 30, you can still use us or another gateway of your choice, but you could do that yourselves. But anything under, we're getting a lot of employers there. We've done about 600 placements now. So yes, it's going well. It's slow though, so don't do this if you're in a hurry. But we're getting there, yes.
That's wonderful, Joy. And I must admit, I'm biased because I've used Joy's services on several occasions. So I know the quality of the talent should be able to identify and provide to me. Thank you, Joy. So next we have Poonam with a lovely tartan scarf on. So where are you, Poonam, and how come you haven't got the heating on?
Thank you, Russell. Good afternoon and good morning, everyone. Really pleased to be here, and happy St. Andrew's Day to all of you. As you can see, I've got my tartan scarf on, so we are celebrating. I am sitting in Dalgety Bay, which is Dunfermline, so Andrew Carnegie's birthplace, which is who set up the lots of businesses in USA, Pittsburgh, and became one of the richest man in the world. So really, I can oversee the Firth of Forth and the famous three bridges from here. So proper, wonderful Scottish setting, although at the moment the sun has just taken a dive. So yeah, I'm sitting there, and would you like me to carry on with my introduction, or?
Yes, please. If you could tell us a little bit about the role you play, because you wear a number of different hats right at the core of what is that innovative Scotland today.
Absolutely, Scott. So yeah, as you can see, so I originate from India, but Scotland is home for 22 years now. Here's where our family started, and the kids are proper Scottish, and a combination of Glasgow and Fife, and studying in Edinburgh. So you can see the dialect will be quite interesting for people. But we've got a flavor of Scotland all over. I have worked here in Scotland, in Glasgow, Edinburgh, and in England as well, and internationally. My background is biomedical sciences, life sciences, health technology, academic professional, researcher who's turned business professional now. And the interest behind that was bridging the gap between industry and academia, as there seems to be a big cultural divide in terms of we are world class in research, but we need to commercialize, and we need to get those products utilizing for society's benefit. And during my research, I noticed that, and that was the drive, passion, and also obviously there is being a female, I noticed that there is always pyramid is very sharp, whether it's in sciences or in businesses. For female, even though we are wanting a fair and just society, there seems to be big gaps. And if you have to make a difference, you want to make it at a strategic and a policy level. And to make that influence, I took that leave. So I work in the interface between both academic and business world. And from that, I'm on the board of Scottish Enterprise, which our friends living abroad will know as Scottish Development International. We support people with investment and capacity skills development. So Scottish Investment Bank, one of the co-funders with a lot of investment in the area. My personal interest is entrepreneurship and innovation particularly. And COVID has provided, so I have some capacity available on our hands. So anyone who's interested in working in that area, happy to get contacted. And I'm happy to work with people in Scotland or from abroad looking to come back to Scotland.
Thank you so much, Poonam. And I have to tell anyone watching that I compete with Poonam for the title of most connected person in Scotland. So you're in a treat. You've got us both on the one call. And I'd now like to move offshore to Jamie. So where are you sitting today, Jamie?
Hi, Russell. Happy St. Andrew's Day, everybody. I'm over in the Outer Hebrides of Scotland here on the Isle of Harris, which is synonymous with the heritage and quality of Scottish products. And that's where we've launched our business, Essence of Harris, which is a candle and lifestyle brand from the Outer Hebrides, which we are now very fortunate to be trading our wares all over America and into China now as well, and various other countries throughout the world. So we're very fortunate to be running a business from this very remote Scottish piece of paradise in these times as well, where life almost seems normal compared to the way it is in many other parts of the world.
So it's amazing what you've been able to achieve, Jamie, because people will have heard of the Isle of Skye, of the Scottish West Coast, and then you're out in the Outer Hebrides beyond Skye. So
yeah.
How do you run an international business from something that we would assume is such a remote location?
With great ease, because it's our biggest asset, not our biggest barrier. You know, without the island, we would just be another company. So people always look for excuses and reasons why. Many, many hard things are achievable with a good strategy and good organisation. You know, I mean, we We have had 2 exceptionally busy weeks since we were on the TV programme on Channel 5 2 weeks ago, but you'd think people all over the country can't get raw materials. We managed to sit down with my team this morning and sourced enough stuff to get us through to January, and we're heading away on the ferry tomorrow morning. We'll be back here by Thursday morning, ready to rock. There's ways around everything. You just have to find a way. This island is our biggest asset.
And just a little bit about what you do, Jamie, because you have Essence of Harris, but you've got other brands that you've built from the island as well, providing local employment and then taking Harris to the world.
Yeah. Essence of Harris is obviously our candle and home fragrance company. We also own a company called Norserve Facilities Management, where we built that up from being a window cleaning company to now employing nearly 200 people throughout the north of Scotland, about 100 odd subcontractors and about 30 to 40 full-time plus office staff, where we take care of a lot of buildings for a lot of blue chip clients from Aviemore all the way up to Orkney and Shetland. So we generate all the money generated in all these remote places stays in those areas instead of getting taken away to the mainland and whatever, because it's local guys doing the jobs. And then I also own the brand Loomshed Hebridean Brewery and Loomshed Hebridean Delis as well. So we've brought that up, which is another brand that is creating jobs and opportunity for local people, that they actually will own a part of the business, and it helps to develop the business and throw back into the sustainability of the island. But Essence is the one that's took us to where we are visually. But we do a lot of other things, and myself and my wife are the 2 people behind all these companies, but it's the team that make it foreseeable. Our whole management team are all dynamic young people under 30 years old. 95% of the management team are all across all businesses are under 30 years old. So it looks like I'm an extremely bright, intelligent businessman, but actually I'm just good at putting people together.
And it's wonderful, because if we think about the challenges so many people face in different parts of the country, here's someone on an island with a very limited population managing to achieve that. And I have to say, whenever I think of Jamie, I've never told him this, whenever I think of Jamie, I think of the Scottish film Local Hero, because it's like there's this one guy who's running the hotel and the bar and the shop. Wonderful. Thank you for joining us, Jamie.
Thank you for having me. Lovely to be here.
Thank you, Jamie. Now back to the mainland and up to the Highlands to Isabella.
Hello, everyone. And thank you for inviting me, Russell. And happy St. Andrew's Days to everyone. I am a foreigner living in the north of Scotland. I moved to Scotland from Singapore 10 years ago. And I started to work as a researcher and as a consultant because my background is being an environmental scientist. I finished my PhD in 2006 in the land restoration, so bioremediation. And then I had a breakthrough meeting somebody that was very important in my life change. That was Gunter Pauli. I met him in Indonesia while I was working in restoration, and I realized that restoration was a very difficult endeavor. And I moved to the circular economy then. And since then, since I moved to Scotland, I worked on that level with the circular economy and the climate actions. So I am a consultant for also the Climate Kick, which is a European network where we support climate innovation with funds and mentoring and scaling up. And I have my own companies in the north of Scotland. I have 2 Scottish business partners. So we are a team of 6 people now, but we run several activities, not just the consultancy. Also, we have a business involved in food and also protein gap development, because in the future there will be a big protein gap that we need to cover, and we think the work we are doing with reducing land and using urban farming means will help. So we use mushrooms to do that, but also waste is part of the narrative because we use feedstocks In the north of Scotland, we have access to a lot of fish stocks, so they are underutilized. I wouldn't say wasted, but underutilized, yes. So one is, of course, the whiskey industry or the brewery industry, or hot asks. We use those as well. Sawdust. So all these feedstocks are widely available, and we use those to produce mushrooms, and then we create different kind of protein food. And we have also the Climate Innovation Hub that is based here, and we work with climate innovation in the north of Scotland for the Climate Kick, not just for the University of Edinburgh, at the Centre for Carbon Innovation. So those are a few things that we do.
So thank you for that, Isabella. Now,
Thank you.
I'm delighted to see the four of you here, because I wanted to, you are the Scotland that I see every day. You and other people similar to yourselves who are driving entrepreneurial and innovation in our very diverse country. But it's not the image I think we portray to the world. So have all four of you on the screen, all giving that example is wonderful. So thank you so much for joining us. I now wanted to ask a question a little bit about what kind of examples you're seeing of innovation in Scotland today. For me, it's the innovation of collaboration. It's people finding new and different ways to combine and work together. Not necessarily under contracts where someone's getting a part of this or a part of that, but I've just seen Scotland, particularly this year, come together, not only to support each other, but also to share experience and allow progress to be made. I know Poonam asked me to sit on a panel into India to do a presentation, and I've spent a lot of time with Jamie as well, and Joy and Isabella. So could I ask one of you, what do you see innovative in Scotland today that you think is possibly not so well known around the world?
People have got it, are starting to get it now, that together we are stronger. You know, you don't go overseas and get a negative feedback anywhere in the world when you're Scottish. And people are starting to now get that we can be an absolute force internationally, but together it's easier to just go there and you're not cutting into each other and all this jazz. People used to worry about that in the past, but people are now in the mindset that, you know, even similar interests or similar businesses together can capture a new world. But before that, it was all a wee bit of the me society. I think that's sort of dying now, you know. Well, I hope it is, because together is the only way we're going to succeed internationally, unless we're selling whiskey or shortbread.
I've got.
Oh, sorry, Poonam, would you like to come in next, and then I'll go to Joy?
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Russell. I think I would totally agree with you that collaboration and cooperation are the two words that are resonating. Obviously, if COVID has given us something, that is one feeling of community togetherness, and that is coming more at a humane level. And but if you were to look more in terms of where innovation is taking place and how we are taking basically showing Scotland to the world, I would give you just two examples. So one is the life sciences and health and medtech technologies that I would say, although our 4 or 5 of our universities are always in the top 50 and top 100, and we punch very much above our weight in terms of research publications. For productivity, for in terms of commercial output, it wasn't as well known, but what is coming out is now. So I will give example of a company called TC Biopharm. They are a gamma delta T-cell company working on the cancer treatment, and during the COVID itself they pivoted, and because it was initially coming out that the antibody response might be not as well as was predicted, and they might because people's plasma indicated that antibody level, so they came up with the proposal to do the T-cell therapy in the COVID patients, and that proposal, they did get approval to do that, and it's soon to be started. So now they've already got collaborations with partnerships America and Japan, and are trying to enter. So any international partners or companies or executives who are interested, or particularly investors who are interested in Scottish biotech, they should look out for TC Biopharm. And other example, which I would say is strength of Scotland becoming more so now, is public-private sector partnerships, which I do used to feel and still feel that we don't have private sector represented on our tables as much as it should be, where we do work more on the third sector, public sector collaboration. But the thing is, time is now for the private sector also to pick up their social citizenship responsibility. And in one example where Scottish enterprise worked with City Council and Michelin, who were leaving Scotland, is on the Michelin Scotland Innovation Park. And this is a wonderful opportunity, providing with skills, education, and space in the very developing area of low carbon innovation. And that's a wonderful partnership. And anyone who's interested in working with companies, they are housing there, the accelerator program is there. So that I would say is certainly, it wouldn't have happened had the three parts not come together. So that's a prime example of collaboration.
Great example from both Jamie and Poonam. And if I could just go to Joy.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Jamie was saying. I think the pandemic in itself became fertile ground for our innovative entrepreneurs. And one that we worked with way back in April was someone called Tom Harries. He set up the Edinburgh Lockdown Economy, a digital platform showcasing small local businesses who were still open and trading during lockdown. And then Tom then white labeled the technology and worked with people across Scotland so they could all showcase and support their own local businesses who were still in business, which I thought was just fantastic. And I also have to say that Scotland now has more satellites than any other country in Europe, which I had no idea about. And it's soon to be home to Europe's first small satellite spaceport, as some of you know. But I think that this understanding that turnover is 140 million, and that almost 1/5 of all UK jobs in the space sector are based in Scotland. I think that's quite key as well, too. Talking about Scotland punching above its weight.
I think that's a wonderful example, and I hope what we're sharing as well is something I didn't see when I was a young man, which was a real interest in business, in innovation, in entrepreneurship. And this is almost like a revolution we've seen happening in the last 5 years. And a lot of that is driven by our education sector, which Joy and Poonam know well, and also by our connectivity. So the one news headline I would have expected to see this year that I haven't in the Scottish press is, I can't get online. I haven't seen that. I know some people are finding difficulties accessing broadband, but I just haven't. The vast majority of the population, right out to Jamie on the Western Isles, have very high quality internet access. And we shouldn't forget that for many Western countries in the world, that's a real problem. So I'd now like to turn to the area of the global climate emergency that we're facing today. And we've seen great move by the Scottish Government to bring attention on this. And in 2021, we will see COP26 taking place in Glasgow. And I'd really like to turn to Isabella just to ask a little bit about what does that mean for Scotland, the fact that this conference is going to come here and this focus is going to be on the UK and particularly in Scotland at this time?
I think the reason because Glasgow has been chosen as a location, it is directly related to the commitments that the Scottish Government has been and the efforts has been doing in the last 10, 15 years regarding climate change and regarding circular economy. It was the first country publishing a circular economy strategy, and they won a prize in Devon for that in the 2016, and we have a strong climate targets for reducing carbon emissions. Potentially, for tackling them for real, we need also to raise the bar, as every other countries is not really a Scotland-related problem. We are ambitious. Scotland is ambitious. So the government is very ambitious in regard to carbon targets, but we can do better. I think we are gearing up with the understanding of what we can do, which is not in regard to offsetting. I don't know if people are confident with the word offsetting. Offsetting carbon means that essentially some of the funds we are going to allocate as investments, they are going into reducing the impact of this carbon that is already released in the atmosphere. So we try to offset this carbon with investments in relation to reforestation or to other investments. And I think we have started to understand which other investments are best for offsetting and even for becoming carbon negative, because offsetting won't be enough, because the carbon has been released in the atmosphere for the last 170 years. So now how do we offset this carbon that is sitting there? So we don't have this time. In order to do so, we need to boost the capacity of innovation, like, the innovation that is in life science or the innovation that is in technology, to tackle these problems, in a wider way. Otherwise, we can't plant trees on the top of one another, and we still have to produce food, and we still have to look after our needs as a society. So in order to do so, we really need to encourage innovation and thinking outside of the box. And Scotland does that. Scotland is well known for supporting innovation.
Thank you, Isabella. So well said. And it's something that we're coming across more and more within Scottish Business Society. So within Scottish Business Network, our members came to us and talked about what can they do to help. So we introduced a net zero program, allowing companies to measure their carbon footprint and then work on strategies to reduce that. A small thing, but this was driven by an economy that's asking for this. Poonam, from the work at Scottish Enterprise, do you have any insight into or any view on why it's so important that COP26 is coming to Scotland?
Absolutely, Russell. I think for one thing is that it is coming to Scotland, and we should make the most of it, because this is the time when the world's eyes will be on Glasgow, Scotland, and the UK. So I think that is the chance to showcase our best ability and our targets, which are ambitious, but I would say that we can overshoot them already, because some of them we have already made good progress. And from a Scottish Enterprise point of view, I would say yes. I have been in last 4 months, I've been involved in 3 events in relation to COP26, and good to see that right from the innovation level, which was Scotland's 7 innovation center, which are the world-class innovation center in different areas, from health tech to technology to digital, aquaculture, and what came out is that we do have innovation. It exists already, so we don't need to go out and look for new technologies as much. What we need is scale, and for scale what we need are partnerships. And the other event that I was involved in by the Scottish Environmental Protection Agency, SEPA, which is Scotland's Environment Protection National Agency. There was a wholesome across the party line, because I chaired a session with all political parties, and this is one subject matter where everybody agrees to. Their approaches might be different, but this is what we need for a climate emergency situation, which we want to utilize as an opportunity rather than emergency, because as we know that hope only is going to make us move forward, whereas fear will only paralyze people. But that, as I said in earlier time, while we have good progress, but for example, if I take retrofitting the houses to make them green, we need to be fitting one house every 5 seconds till 2040. So that is the target when we want to achieve net zero by 2045. While Scottish government's target is ambitious, our task is also monumental. So what we need there is partnership of private sector coming in, because state alone cannot do. All the investment cannot happen just by state putting money in there. So what we need to do is big corporates, big investors coming in and looking at the technology and the innovations that's available in Scotland and working with them. So that will be, and the other aspect will be the behavioral change, which from Scottish public as well as globally, because the other interesting topic that I was involved in was the donut economy. And that's a very interesting model. We can talk about it, but that reaches us, while we also need to maintain a just and inclusive society.
And sorry, Joy, would you like to come in?
Oh, that brings me in nicely, doesn't it? A just and inclusive society. Perfect. I have to say that I think I was the one, was I not, Poonam, that made that introduction to SEPA, my chair of my board. Joe Green, yes, I thought so. Yes, so Scotland and its government are very mindful that those who didn't create this issue of global warming will be most affected. So they want this transition to be fair, and they've got a really strong agenda in Scotland that doesn't necessarily exist in the rest of the UK, which makes them stand out. And you'll have heard of the Scottish Government's Just Transition Commission, which is aimed at building justice and equity into the low carbon transition. But it ties in with the current debate about the economy and what we want for the future. And in fact, Jo, my chair, she has a wonderful phrase, and she says, we want an economy that works for people and the environment and not the other way around. And I love this because it's where AI comes in. This is about inclusion and employment. If you're going to have to go through disinvestment in industries, you have to have a transition that supports people into other jobs. And it's this must work for all social groups. And I feel that Nicola Sturgeon also has well-being on the agenda in a big way. So yes, I'm pleased with the way things are going in that regard.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much. And I wanted to turn on to the last subject here. We've looked at the environment, we've looked at innovation, and the issue of inclusivity. So my personal experience was 2 years ago, we put on an event for Scottish Business Network, and we ended up talking about a particular subject, and the 4 panelists we had were all men. And I received negative feedback in the press for not trying hard enough to get a more diverse range of speakers. It was a very specific subject, so it was quite hard, but me guilty. I took that criticism as for what it was meant for a good reason. So I attended some training on unconscious bias, which was a real revelation for me. And it kind of explained a lot of what I was thinking. And since then, we've tried much harder to get a more diverse panelists on everything we've done, and to support people, probably more committed to people who are from an ethnic minority background or perhaps have some disability or handicap, and to try to bring everyone together, because this is all Scotland. Even people that don't like rugby, no, I'm trying everything. So if I could turn to you first, Joy, because this is part of your day job, this issue of inclusivity. What do you see Scotland is doing and what progress we're making?
Well, I think it's good. I think this year especially has taught us not to take each other for granted, which in itself is leading to greater inclusion. Mental health and well-being, as I said, is now top of the agenda in most workplaces as well as government. Because I think we all see the sacrifices and adjustments that people have had to make recently. And Scottish Government too has well-being on its agenda, as I said. So that acknowledgement across the board will serve this country well, and I hope it continues as we go forward. But I think also Black Lives Matter movement, that because we all had to wake up and acknowledge the inequalities around the world, and many business leaders had to think quite hard about that. What was their role here? How could they communicate their thoughts, represent their company's feelings and inclusion goals? So many floundered, and there's a long way to go, but we can see that spaces are being created to kind of allow everyone to a seat at the table and an opportunity to contribute. So they were 2 very key factors here. And one thing that I've noticed, though, and I've been quite pleasantly surprised to see that diversity and inclusion is still very much on people's agenda. But I must mention one company that we've just been working with recently called OneBanks. And this is a young company creating manned kiosks in small towns where people of all ages can go and ask a real person queries about online banking, whatever their bank is. So it's got a good social purpose. It can help the elderly, it can help young people, it can help anybody. But the owner...
Oh, you still there, Joy?
Looks like we've lost her.
I think we might have some problems with Joy at the moment.
Okay.
So, do you want to come in, Poonam, on the subject of diversity?
Yeah, certainly. Means I am looking diversity on this pan. Oh, yeah. Okay, have we lost Joy? Yeah. So, I mean, I would say the points that Joy was raising, that certainly is very valid and true in terms of that, that COVID has shown society the value. But what it has also highlighted is the plight of marginalized communities even more. Those who are slightly outside an access of support, their situation has become even more prominent. And I would give one example that while the health and care community has kept the hospitals running, but it has also shown that those are the communities that have fallen prey to COVID more. So people of color and ethnic minorities are 2 times more likely to die. And it is mostly due to, because they are more in the low paid jobs and they are at the front line and not have access to, but also at the same time not have access to as much support available. So if we have to make a transition to just transition, as Joy was mentioning earlier, and have that society which is thriving, because eventually with the COP26, our aim is to have a prosperous planet and people with a purpose and place. We can only achieve when we leave no one behind and take everyone together. And that can happen when people of color or people who are living in poverty are not feeling marginalized. So one positive example, I would say, for inclusion that has happened, and it is an example that we can shout from the top, is the Scottish government passing the period poverty bill. And that certainly, because you were talking about the manels, the men on the panel, Russell, and I would say, yes, I'm one of the proponent of that. I would say if you were selecting all men on panel, I would say you are only organizing manel. And as men folks, if it is a responsibility to say whether you would agree to speak on a panel or not, whether the topic is not difficult. Going back to Joy's point, if you look in the same places, you'll find the same people. So you need to look out of your places. But that, because especially at the early people living under the poverty line, girls tend to lose education in schools or colleges, because if they cannot access the products, they cannot come to a place of education. So I think, and the other positive point of that was that it was supported across all the political parties, and and we are the first country in the world to do it. So certainly that's a positive note, but a long way to go ahead in terms of achieving full inclusion.
Thank you so much for that, Poonam. I'm going to turn to Jamie now, because this issue of diversity and inclusivity, when you're working with such a restricted talent pool, Jamie, as I'm sure you are on the island, how do you address that, or is that something there's little you can do? You're on.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, we're sort of guided by population here. It's a different kettle of fish. Although we're very open when we are applying, when we're looking for graduates, etc. But our business also is a company that's looking to help people very much so in well-being and the mindfulness section, and helping people to take a bit of time for themselves. That's what our products are about that. that feeling of escapism and remoteness and time for yourself. So we're sort of trying to build from both sides of it, and we're bringing out some new products and some new items to our armory next year, which will hopefully help people even more as you watch this space. And from next Easter and beyond, you'll see some exciting stuff that is totally based around the well-being and the help for people and taking time for themselves more than ever. And if we can help through our products and our journey and our story to help people to do that and just switch off for that moment and get that feeling, then we have achieved our goal. But yeah, we're guided by population here. Really, we we have got, even at the moment, I could employ 20 more people just now, but they're not there. We feel very glad in one way, and then we feel very sad in another, because there's people all over the country crying out for work, and then there's us that can't get people. So, we have a fine balance in our growth, and that's why collaboration and the key that we touched on earlier, that why I'm always so open to working with people, because we can still achieve our ambitions, but just in a different way. And that's why we're very, very agile, but yeah, we are guided by population, and, I wish that more people need to move to the Outer Hebrides. This is a very, very fragile population and economy here, so don't treat it lightly with the successful businesses like ourselves, Harris Gin, Harris Tweed. We cannot grow our businesses. There is not enough houses here to put people in and bring people to grow the businesses and the brands that we're trying to grow here. So although it looks all smiley faces and happy from the outside, we are heading for a crash if we keep growing at the rate we're growing at,
But I'm sure you'll have a plan in place to address that, Jamie.
Oh yeah, you need to always have a plan, Russell. You know that. Always have a plan.
So I hope from this session we've kind of given it maybe a slightly different impression of Scotland, and I'd like to thank you all for that. And just in summation, I'd just like a personal question from me to you. So if someone's watching this broadcast, either live now or on recording, and they've got a question, what should they be coming to you to ask? What can someone help you with at the moment? And you can come in whichever order you like. So just each of you, one after the other. What is the ask?
Okay, I'll start.
Anyone?
Joy, please.
Oh, we're far too polite. That's the other thing about Scottish. Living in Scotland, it makes you all very polite. My ask is simple. My businesses who come to me ask, how do I attract and retain more diversity?
Excellent and brilliantly put, Joy. Nice and short as well, just in case the internet disappeared. Thank you for that.
Into the Ethernet now. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. And for me also, it's not just about my brand, but all Scottish brands. If we do not get behind our own brands at these times, this is again not scaremongering, but they will not be here. Some Scottish brands need people's support right now, not next week, not next year, right now, so that we are all still here. Up and coming brand experiences and lifestyles for people need to be supported right now. The big brands will still be here, I hope, in the other side of this as well, but a lot of Scottish small brands are fragile and need support.
Thank you for that, Jamie. And we'll be sure to share your contact details and everyone's, just so that anyone watching this can see what some of these Scottish brands are. And perhaps if I could turn to you, Isabella.
So for my ask will be to have support to make more impact. So we are trying to make impact on the zero waste and the cruelty-free products, so that it will be our space. And in that space, we know there are a lot of customers that we can't really reach with all the products that they need. And the alternative for them to gather all these products together is potentially Amazon. So, and it's not sometimes for them doesn't feel an ethical choice. So we are putting together a sort of lineup products, Scottish products. They are vegan, cruelty-free, and zero waste, to feature them together. But though there is still a long way to go, because we inquire somebody who is a vegan brand and they don't have the zero waste credentials and the other way around. So it is a long way to go. And it is an interesting way to go, because in this going together is a journey where we can calculate carbon emission, we can calculate the impact. So we are looking for support in that level. So at the moment, I have 2 investors lined up, but if somebody else would like to get in touch to support this platform that we are putting together, that would be fantastic.
Thank you for that, Isabella, and I'll be sure to broadcast that out to our broader network as well to see if we can attract more support from you.
Thank you.
More support for you, not from you. And finally to Poonam, just to bring this session to an end.
Thank you, Russell. I'm going to be cheeky and ask for a double-ended, two-ended ask. So one, I would ask for all our Scottish friends listening outside is we've recently released the new sort of foreign direct investment strategy. So look into Scotland if you want to come here interested in setting up businesses. Great talent, great opportunity. And also for Scottish companies here in terms of their trade opportunity in the rest of the world, the excellent quality products which you can rely on, Scottish quality. So looking into the innovative Scottish companies, both in the technology, energy, and life sciences and health and sector, and many more. And the second ask from a more personal level is I'm some capacity is available, and I support companies for either at the non-exec level or mentoring and advisory level. So anyone, either side is interested in working, just contact and we can chat. Thank you.
I would urge someone to pick up the phone and take up that offer, because Poonam is extraordinarily gifted at board level and with such a rich contact base as well.
And
but I would like to...
Sorry, Russell, I'm going to interrupt and say you can see that, by the way, she perfectly finished off my phrase when my sentence when I froze.
Yeah, we've planned this well, everyone. So I'd like to bring this particular session to an end and thank Isabella, Poonam, Jamie and Joy. It has been an absolute pleasure to be with you all today, and thank you for what you're all doing for Scotland and all doing it together. So happy St. Andrew's Day, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Happy St. Andrew's Day once again.